I was halfway through my morning coffee, standing there in my embarrassingly loud pajamas, when Janice Larch blasted through my front door like she'd been waiting her whole life to play the villain in somebody else's story. She didn't even bother knocking, just marched right in, holding her HOA clipboard like it was a royal decree, eyes shining with that weird mix of joy and menace you only ever see on HOA presidents with too much time on their hands. As of this morning, Room 2B is under homeowner association jurisdiction, she announced, not a hint of irony, like she expected trumpets to play or something. I just stood there, mug frozen halfway to my lips, trying to process the idea that my guest bedroom, where the most action it had ever seen was a pile of folded laundry, was now apparently government property. You may retain the kitchen and bathroom, she went on, voice all syrupy like she was doing me a favor, but the second and third bedrooms will now be considered community hosting zones. You ever have one of those moments where your brain just skips like a scratched record? That was me, blinking at her, trying to figure out if I was still dreaming. You're trying to annex my house. I finally managed, which only made her nod even more seriously, pointing to some nonsense about a social utility index. Welcome to shared living, Ronald. Let me back up a sec. Me name's Ronald Trawick, semi-retired meteorologist. Moved here to Lilac Pond Estates for one reason: peace and quiet. Well, that and the fact that it was the only neighborhood in 3 counties with 0 tornadoes in the last decade. When I bought my little bungalow 2 years ago, it seemed like paradise, sure. The lavender mailboxes were a little much, and the monthly potlucks were more culty than I preferred, but it was fine as long as I kept my head down and mowed my lawn to exactly 2.5 inches. That all changed 3 months ago when Janice, fresh off her career as an improv teacher, got herself elected HOA president and decided our street needed, as she put it, radical suburban innovation. Last month, it was forced yoga in the cul-de-sac. The month before, communal composting me bin is still missing, by the way. But this room-sharing stunt? This is a whole new level. I only heard about it from Mrs. Chun, my next-door neighbor, who whispered something about Project Room Share and how the word optional on Janice's flyers actually meant or else. Sure enough, the next morning there's a letter taped to my door, Comic Sans somehow looking ominous, telling me to prepare rooms 2A and 2B for community access. Noncompliance, the notice said, could mean penalties, including potential eviction under the Neighborhood Harmony Clause. Harmony, yeah, right? So I did what any reasonable person would do. I ignored it. That lasted exactly 3 days because when I got back from the store, Janice was standing in my driveway with a folding cot and a guy who looked like a rejected Burning Man extra poncho, didgeridoo, the whole 9 yards. "This is Stuart," she said with a smile so fake it hurt to look at. "He's between homes, but spiritually abundant. He'll be utilizing your community hosting zone starting immediately." Before I could even get mad, Stuart had shuffled past me into my house, trailing an odor so strong it felt like a personal attack. By the time I found my phone to call the police, he'd already set up a lava lamp in my guest room and was burning incense that smelled like tires and sadness. "This is trespassing," I said, struggling to keep my voice from shaking. But Janice was ready. She whipped out some printout about revised HOA bylaws and transitional housing initiatives. "Stuart is our first participant," she said, and then, just to twist the knife, hit me with an $800 fine for emotional hostility toward a transitional resident. Yeah, that happened. The next few days are a blur. First, it was just Stuart, but soon enough, Bev moved Ina tarot reader with enough crystals to open a small museum, who immediately took over my home office, draping dream catchers over my weather charts and insisting that high-pressure systems were cosmic messages. At this point, I was running out of towels, shampoo, and patience. Changing the locks? Janice already had spare keys made. Calling the police? Turns out she'd filed paperwork authorizing her guests. The cop who showed up actually apologized and said I should talk to a lawyer. The lawyer laughed so hard I thought he'd choke, then quoted me $3,000 just to read the HOA paperwork. I tried to remove Stewart's stuff while he was out. Big mistake. Janice shows up with a camera crew. Unauthorized handling of transitional resident property, she yells as the cameraman zooms in on me, holding the world's ugliest lava lamp. That's another fine. Ronald now, I'm up to $2,400. This is progress, Janice says, sounding like she's about to win a Nobel Prize. Private rooms are a luxury this community can't afford. They're my rooms, I say. I pay the mortgage. And you pay HOA dues, she fires back, which means you've agreed to community standards. By the way, your grass is too long. Another violation. My grass was regulation height. Didn't matter, facts were flexible in Janice's HOA. At my wit's end, I tried legal eviction, paid the fees, filed the forms, thought I finally had a win. Nope, Janice reports me to the county for running an unlicensed rental operation. The county inspector, Tom, shows up, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. As he walked through, Stewart tried to give him kombucha. Bev tried to read his palm. But then something magical happened. Tom actually started asking questions about the HOA, wanted to see the paperwork, all of it. Interesting, he mutters, scrolling through Janice's files. MS. Larch has filed 17 complaints this month. And what's this about a federal grant? My ears perk up. Turns out Janice had applied for a $75,000 federal grant, listing my house as a designated community lodge under some fake nonprofit she invented. That was her fatal mistake. Tom's eyes lit up, calls the county, and by the end of the week, investigators are crawling all over Lilac Pond Estates, the kind of people who wear cheap suits and never smile. They dig through HOA records, find receipts for a hot tub, a trip to Cabo, and about 1,000 ceramic frogs. They find out Janice had installed hidden cameras in my house to ensure community standards. The words they use for that aren't fit for polite company. And that's when everything unraveled. Stewart turned out to be Janice's nephew, running charity scams for orphan dolphins who knew dolphins could be orphaned. Bev, not even her real name, just a grifter avoiding business taxes, found Janice on Facebook. The board calls an emergency meeting. Janice is out, unanimously, even votes for herself, probably just confused. The state steps in, fraud, invasion of privacy, a laundry list of charges. She takes a Plano jail, but $135,000 in restitution. Her house gets auctioned. I show up as the only bidder, holding a prosperity-blessed tarot card Bev left behind, and turn her old master bedroom into a home theater. First movie? A documentary about HOA abuse. Invited the whole neighborhood, even Stewart, though he wasn't allowed inside. But nothing, and I mean nothing, beats the final scene. At sentencing, Janice stands up, looks the judge dead in the eye, and declares herself a sovereign citizen of Lilac Pond Estates. The judge doesn't even flinch, just adds $5,000 for contempt. Janice is left speechless, mouth opening and closing like a goldfish, realizing that clipboards and bylaws don't mean squat outside the HOA echo chamber. So yeah, peace and quiet, right? Never thought I'd have to fight this hard just to drink coffee in my own kitchen, but I guess that's suburban America these days. Now, let me throw this to you. Where's the line between community and control? Ever tangled with a power-hungry HOA? Drop your wildest HOA story or opinion below, and let's get a real debate going. You know what I mean?